Leo didn't even remember picking up the phone. It was an instinct, a muscle memory more ingrained than breathing. His thumb moved with a practiced rhythmic flick, scrolling past faces he didn't know and headlines he wouldn't remember. There was a tightness in his chest, a dull, heavy pressure that felt like sitting at the bottom of a deep pool. He wasn't searching for anything in particular. He was just trying to outrun the silence of the room. The air in his apartment felt stale, thick with the scent of unwashed coffee mugs and the metallic tang of electronics that never went to sleep. Every notification was a tiny spark, a fleeting promise that the next click would finally be the one to make him feel right. But the spark would die before the page even finished loading, leaving him colder than before. He looked at his hands. They were trembling slightly. It wasn't just the caffeine or the lack of sleep. It was the exhaustion of a man who had been running a marathon on a treadmill. He was moving. He was consuming. He was engaged, yet he felt like a ghost in his own life. The things that used to bring him joy, the thrill of a new project, the warmth of a sunset, even the taste of his favorite meal had become muted. It was as if the world had been stripped of its saturation, leaving behind a grainy, monochrome reality. His life was a series of loops. Wake up, reach for the phone before his eyes were even fully open, and flood his brain with the noise of 1,000 lives that weren't his. By noon, he was already spent. His focus was a shattered mirror, reflecting fragments of ideas, but never a whole thought. He would sit at his desk, staring at a blank screen, while the itch built up in the back of his mind. The itch to check, to scroll, to escape the unbearable heaviness of being alone with himself. He was drowning in a sea of plenty. He had access to every song ever recorded, every movie ever made, and every opinion ever uttered, yet he had never felt more impoverished. This was the weight of the world in the digital age, a constant crushing demand for attention that offered no true rest in return. Leo tried to fight back. He bought the journals with the gold-leafed edges. He downloaded the apps that promised to gamify his focus, turning his life into a series of checklists and digital badges. He listened to the podcasts where high-energy hosts screamed about crushing it and optimizing every second. Maybe I just need a better system, he told himself, his voice sounding thin in the quiet of his office. He organized his desk. He bought a standing desk. He tried the Pomodoro technique, setting timers that felt like ticking bombs. But every time the timer went off, he didn't feel productive. He felt relieved that he could go back to the distractions. The depression started to leak into the edges of his workday. It wasn't a sharp sadness, but a hollow ache, a post-stimulus hangover that followed every binge. After an hour of mindless browsing, he would feel a wave of anxiety so intense it made his skin crawl. His heart would race for no reason, and a voice in his head would whisper that he was falling behind, that he was wasting his life, that he was fundamentally broken. The breaking point came during a meeting for a project that could have defined his career. His client was speaking, describing a vision for a new campaign, but Leo couldn't hear him. All he could feel was the phone in his pocket. It felt like a hot coal against his leg. He found himself nodding, smiling a practiced, empty smile, while his brain screamed for a hit of dopamine. "Leo, what do you think?" the client asked. Leo blinked. The silence stretched out, becoming an entity of its own. He looked at the client, then at his own hands, and realized he had no idea what had been said in the last 10 minutes. He had been physically present, but mentally he was miles away, chasing shadows. The project was lost that day. The disappointment on the client's face was a mirror he couldn't look away from. He had hit a wall made of his own compulsions. A week later, Leo found himself sitting across from a mentor he hadn't seen in years. a man named Elias who lived in a small cabin on the outskirts of the city. Elias didn't have a smartphone. He had a wood-burning stove and a wall of books that smelled like history. "You look like you're carrying the weight of 1,000 suns, Leo," Elias said, pouring a cup of tea. "I'm just tired, Elias. I think I'm just burnt out." "No," Elias countered, his eyes sharp. "You're not burnt out. You're overstimulated. Your brain is a scale that's been tipped so far toward pleasure that it's forgotten how to find the center. Every time you seek that quick thrill, your brain compensates by adding weight to the side of pain. It's trying to protect you, but you're fighting it." Leo looked at his tea. "So what do I do? More hustle? More systems?" "No," Elias said firmly. "You do nothing. You stop. You enter the desert." Elias explained the principle of the balance. He told Leo that for the next 30 days, he had to give up the very things he used to escape. No scrolling, no digital noise, no easy fixes. "The first 10 days will be hell," Elias warned. "You will feel the itch turn into a burn. You will feel bored, and that boredom will feel like death. But stay in it. Don't run. If you want to see the color again, you have to let the world go gray for a while." Leo went home and turned off his phone. He put it in a drawer and locked it. The first night, the silence was so loud it made his ears ring. He walked around his apartment like a caged animal. He reached for his pocket 100 times, finding nothing but empty fabric. He felt the deficit, the raw, gnawing hunger of a brain that had been fed sugar for years and was now being given only water. He began to notice things. The way the light shifted on the wall at 4 p.m. The sound of the wind rattling the window pane. The sheer, agonizing slowness of time. It was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was the most honest he had been with himself in a decade. Before we continue with Leo's journey into the dopamine fast, if you're finding value in this story and want to help us create more content that explores the depths of the human experience, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to Wisdom 77. Your support allows us to keep telling these stories and diving into the philosophies that can change the way we live. Now, let's go back to the desert. By day 15, the gray started to lift. It wasn't a sudden explosion of color, but a gradual sharpening of the world's edges. Leo found that he could read a book for an hour without his mind wandering. He found that the itch had subsided into a dull hum that he could easily ignore. He began to practice what Elias called radical pain. Instead of avoiding discomfort, he sought it out. He took freezing, cold showers that left him gasping for air. He went for long, grueling runs until his lungs burned. He tackled the most difficult, most boring parts of his work first, without the promise of a digital reward afterward. He realized that by leaning into the pain, his brain was finally tipping the balance back toward a natural state of well-being. The pleasure he felt now wasn't sharp and fleeting. It was steady. It was the quiet satisfaction of a job well done, the genuine warmth of a conversation with a friend, the simple joy of being present. The final test came when an old acquaintance called him, inviting him to an event that would have previously been a trigger for all his old habits. A high-stimulus, loud, chaotic networking party fueled by ego and excess. Leo stood in the middle of the room, the lights flashing, the music thumping. In the past, he would have been on his phone within minutes, trying to manage his social anxiety with digital hits. But this time he just stood there. He felt the discomfort. He felt the awkwardness of not having a prop in his hands. And he stayed. He looked around and saw the people there, most of them with their phones out, capturing the moment instead of living it. He saw the same weight he used to carry in their eyes. He felt a profound sense of clarity. He didn't need to escape. He was already where he needed to be. The moral of the story is one that our modern world hates to hear. The path to happiness is not through more pleasure, but through a better relationship with pain. We live in a nation dopamine, a culture designed to keep us in a state of perpetual wanting. But true freedom isn't found in satisfying every itch. It's found in the ability to sit with the itch and not scratch it. To find balance, we must embrace the boredom. We must practice radical honesty with ourselves about our addictions. We must understand that pleasure is a debt we eventually have to pay back with interest, while the pain of discipline is an investment that pays dividends in peace. Leo didn't change his life by adding more. He changed it by having the courage to have less. He realized that the silence he had been running from wasn't an enemy, it was a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, he finally found the man he was meant to be. If Leo's journey resonated with you, you might find a deep well of wisdom in the book that inspired this story, Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke. It is a powerful guide for anyone looking to reclaim their focus and their life in this age of indulgence. You can find the link to the book in the description of this video. Thank you for watching Wisdom 77. Until next time, find your balance.